The Helios Deep Space Research Station hung like a silver pendant against the velvet backdrop of space, its rotating rings catching starlight as they spun. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck's panoramic window, her dark eyes fixed on the approaching vessel. Its obsidian hull seemed to drink in the light, making it look less like a spacecraft and more like a moving void in space. "They're early," muttered Commander Rodriguez beside her, checking his tablet for the 10th time in as many minutes. "The Night Stalkers are never early." Sarah nodded, trying to keep her excitement from showing. After 15 years of studying xenobiology, she was about to meet the most enigmatic species humanity had encountered since joining the Galactic Assembly. The Night Stalkers, as other species called them, were notorious for their hunting prowess and near-perfect predatory adaptations. Most civilizations gave their territory a wide berth. But humans, being humans, had reached out instead. The station's AI chimed overhead. "Night Stalker vessel, Shadow Echo requesting docking clearance. Atmospheric compatibility confirmed. Security protocols in place." Rodriguez squared his shoulders. "Grant clearance, maintain level 2 security protocols." He glanced at Sarah. "Ready, Doctor." "Born ready," she replied, already heading for the docking bay. Her research team fell in behind her, Dr. James Wong, specialist in predator psychology, and Dr. Maya Patel, expert in xenolinguistics. They'd spent months preparing for this moment. The docking bay's massive doors parted with a pneumatic hiss. The Night Stalker ship's boarding ramp extended like a black tongue, and Sarah felt her heart rate quicken. The first figure that emerged moved with liquid grace, its body covered in overlapping plates that seemed to shift color with each movement. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, the Night Stalker's 4 arms ended in retractable claws, and its elongated head housed 4 eyes that gleamed with bioluminescent light. "I am Vorkath," it spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of subvocalizations that Maya's translator rendered into crisp English. "Lead hunter of the Shadow Echo. We received your invitation with curiosity." Sarah stepped forward, maintaining eye contact, a gesture that would have been seen as a challenge by most predatory species. "Welcome to Helios Station, Lead Hunter. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Head of Xenobiology. We're honored by your presence." Vorkatha's head tilted slightly, upper eyes narrowing while the lower ones widened, an expression Sarah couldn't yet read. "You face me directly, human. Most species avert their gaze. Humans have a long history of working with predators," Sarah explained. "We believe mutual respect begins with facing each other as equals." A low rumble emerged from Vorkatha's chest, something between a growl and a laugh. "So we have heard. Your species tamed the hunters of your world. Some say this makes you dangerous. Others say it makes you mad." More Night Stalkers emerged from the ship, each moving with the same fluid grace as their leader. Sarah noticed how they immediately spread out, unconsciously taking positions that gave them optimal coverage of the room. Predator behavior at its finest. "Perhaps it makes us both," Sarah replied with a smile. "But it also makes us uniquely qualified to understand your species. That's why we've proposed this joint research initiative." The station's lights flickered briefly, a common occurrence as the massive structure adjusted its power distribution. But Sarah noticed how every Night Stalker instantly shifted into a combat-ready stance, their plates darkening to match their surroundings. "Impressive reaction time," Dr. Wong murmured into his tablet. "Instantaneous threat response and adaptive camouflage." Vorkatha's attention snapped to him. "You study us even now, little scientist." "Always," Wong replied cheerfully. "Just as you've been studying us since before you landed. Those extra eyes aren't just for show, are they? Different light spectrums, perhaps?" The Night Stalker leader's plates shifted to a lighter shade, a sign of surprise, Sarah guessed. "You are observant." "We try to be," Sarah said. "Now, shall we discuss the real reason you accepted our invitation?" The swarm is moving again, and this time, they're heading toward both our territories. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The swarm, a hive mind species that consumed everything in its path, was the one threat that even Night Stalkers feared. Not because they couldn't kill them, they could, with frightening efficiency, but because the swarm's numbers made victory impossible through strength alone. You believe your species' strange affinity for predators can help against the swarm? Vorkatha's voice carried a note of skepticism. Sarah activated a holographic display, showing the projected path of the swarm. I believe that combining your hunting prowess with our strategic thinking gives us both a better chance of survival. Humans don't just tame predators, lead hunter. We partner with them. We learn from them. We evolve together. The Night Stalkers gathered closer, their plates shifting through various colors as they communicated in their own way. Sarah waited patiently, knowing this moment could change everything, or end in disaster. Finally, Vorkath spoke again. Show us, then. Show us why your species dares to look predators in the eye. Sarah's smile widened. Gladly. But first, I think you might be interested in something we've discovered about the swarm's hunting patterns. They might be numerous, but they still behave like prey. The Night Stalker's 4 eyes gleamed with sudden interest. Continue, Dr. Chen. Perhaps your species is not as mad as they say. Or perhaps you are madder still. Either way, you have our attention. As Sarah led them toward the research labs, she caught Rodriguez's approving nod. The first step had been taken. Now they just had to prove that humanity's unique approach to dealing with predators could scale up to a galactic level. The fate of both their species might depend on it. The emergency klaxons aboard Helio Station screamed to life at 0300 hours. Sarah bolted upright in her quarters, already reaching for her tablet as the AI's voice cut through the darkness. Level 1 alert. Swarm Vanguard detected in the Arcturus sector. All personnel report to emergency stations. Sarah was halfway to the command center when Vorkath materialized beside her, moving with silent grace despite his massive frame. His plates had shifted to a deep crimson, a color she'd learned indicated battle readiness. There earlier than predicted, the Night Stalker growled, keeping pace with her rapid stride. They're learning, Sarah replied, bursting into the command center. The massive holographic display showed a spreading red stain across the star map, swarm ships, thousands of them, moving like a cloud of locusts through space. Commander Rodriguez stood at the central console, his face illuminated by the red emergency lighting. They've changed their pattern. Instead of moving as one mass, they're splitting into smaller hunting groups. Hunting groups? Vorkatha's secondary eyes narrowed. They are prey. Prey does not hunt. Unless they're evolving, Sarah murmured, studying the tactical display. Or unless something is directing them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The swarm had always been considered a mindless force of nature, terrifying but predictable. This was different. This was strategic. Dr. Wong burst into the room, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by intense focus. The behavioral analysis is complete. These aren't random movements, they're herding patterns. The swarm is trying to funnel all space traffic toward specific corridors. Ambush tactics, Vorkath hissed, his plates rippling with dark colors. They think like hunters now. Sarah stepped closer to the hologram, her mind racing. No, they think like trapped prey that's learned to hunt. There's a difference. She turned to Vorkath. Your people are the galaxy's apex predators. What happens when prey animals are cornered? The Night Stalker's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of dawning understanding. They become most dangerous. Most unpredictable. Exactly, Sarah pointed to the tactical display. Look at their movement patterns. They're not hunting for food anymore. They're hunting for survival. Something has them scared. Rodriguez leaned forward. Doctor, are you suggesting there's an even bigger threat out there? I'm suggesting we've been looking at this all wrong. The swarm isn't just multiplying, it's running from something. And now it's trying to build obstacles between itself and whatever's chasing it. Using our worlds as barriers, Vorkath growled, his claws extending unconsciously. The station shuddered as another wave of data poured in. More swarm ships, appearing at the edges of monitored space. But now that they knew what to look for, Sarah could see the pattern. Every movement was designed to create chaos, to slow down anything following them. We need to change our approach, Sarah declared. Fighting the swarm head-on has never worked. But if we think like predators, real predators, we might have a chance. Vorkatha's plates shifted to an intense blue. Speak your thoughts, human. Your people are stealth hunters. You understand pursuit better than any species in known space. We humans. She smiled grimly. We're persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Together, we might be able to turn this around, make the swarm feel hunted instead of hunting. The Night Stalker leader was silent for a long moment, communicating with his crew through subtle color changes. Finally, he turned all four eyes to Sarah. What you suggest is either brilliant or insane. Perhaps both. But we will listen. Over the next hour, Sarah laid out her plan. The Night Stalkers would use their superior stealth technology to harry the swarm's flanks, forcing them to expend energy maintaining their new hunting formations. Meanwhile, human ships would maintain constant pressure from multiple directions, never letting them rest or regroup. We're not trying to destroy them, Sarah explained, pointing to key tactical positions. We're trying to exhaust them. Force them to abandon their new strategy and revert to their basic instincts. That's when they'll be vulnerable. And what of this thing they flee from? Vorkath demanded. What if we drive them straight into its jaws? Then we'll finally know what we're really dealing with, Sarah replied. Better to face a known threat than be caught between panic-driven prey and an unknown predator. Rodriguez nodded slowly. I'll contact Earth Command. But they'll want assurances that this partnership can work. Our species have never attempted joint military operations before. Then perhaps, Vorkath rumbled, it is time for a demonstration. He turned to Sarah. Your ship maintains a training deck for combat scenarios, yes. Gather your best warriors. Let us hunt together, in simulation first, so that all may see what humans and Night Stalkers can achieve in concert. Sarah felt a smile spread across her face, the kind of smile her colleagues had learned to fear. Commander, with your permission. Rodriguez sighed. Try not to break my station, Doctor. Either of you. As they headed for the training deck, Sarah could feel the shift in the air. Fear of the swarm was being replaced by something else, the electric anticipation of the hunt. Humans and Night Stalkers, moving together with shared purpose. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never back prey into a corner, and why humanity's habit of befriending predators might just save them all. The training deck's environmental controls hummed as they generated the perfect simulation of a swarm-infested space station. Holographic projectors cast an eerie purple light across the modified cargo bay, creating the illusion of organic growth spreading across metal walls. Sarah watched from the observation deck as 3 Night Stalkers and 3 humans moved through the space below. Fascinating, Yar. Wong whispered beside her, furiously taking notes. Look at how they've naturally paired off. Each Night Stalker adapting their movement to match their human partner. Below, Lieutenant Maria Santos crouched behind a simulated barrier, her training weapon at the ready. Above her, Vorkatha's second-in-command, Krell, clung to the ceiling, his plates matching the metallic surface perfectly. They moved like they'd trained together for years, not hours. Contact, came Santos's calm voice over the comm, swarm signatures, multiple vectors. The simulation spawned dozens of swarm drones, holographic recreations based on actual combat footage. They moved with their characteristic jerky speed, flooding into the chamber from multiple entry points. What happened next left even the Night Stalker's observers clicking their mandibles in surprise. Instead of falling back or taking defensive positions, the human Night Stalker pairs executed a series of coordinated attacks that seemed to defy basic combat logic. Santos fired from her position, deliberately missing the closest drones but forcing them to dodge right, directly into Krell's waiting claws. On the far side of the chamber, Corporal Chen and his Night Stalker partner performed a similar maneuver in reverse. They're using the swarm's new hunting instincts against them, Sarah explained to the observers. When faced with multiple threats, they now try to outmaneuver rather than overwhelm. Our teams are creating false patterns for them to follow. The simulation intensified. More drones poured in, their movements becoming more aggressive. But the human Night Stalker teams had found their rhythm. Each species' natural hunting styles complemented the other. Human persistence and tactical thinking merged with Night Stalker stealth and raw power. The observation deck's door hissed open, admitting Commander Rodriguez and a delegation of Galactic Assembly representatives. They'd arrived early to evaluate the joint operation proposal, only to find themselves watching what amounted to a revolution in combat tactics. "Impossible," muttered a Cervelian observer, their crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. The probability of such rapid adaptation between apex predators and humans, it defies calculation. Sarah smiled. "With respect, Ambassador, you're still thinking of us as separate species working together. Look closer. What you're seeing is the emergence of a new kind of predator." Below, Santos's team had been backed into what appeared to be a dead end. Swarm drones closed in from all sides. Then, in a move that drew gasps from the observers, Santos holstered her weapon and ran straight at the nearest Night Stalker. Krell's plates shifted to create handholds as the human lieutenant scaled him like a living ladder, gaining the high ground in seconds. The maneuver disrupted the swarm's attack pattern completely, turning their carefully planned encirclement into chaos. "End simulation," Rodriguez called out. The holographic swarm faded away, leaving the training deck bare except for the panting humans and their Night Stalker partners. "Well," the commander turned to the assembly representatives, "I believe that answers questions about compatibility." But Sarah was already heading for the deck below. She had another concern entirely. The simulation had confirmed something she'd suspected since first analyzing the swarm's new behavior patterns. "Vorkath," she called out as she entered the training area. "You saw it too, didn't you?" The Night Stalker leader's plates shifted to a thoughtful gray. "The pattern within the pattern." "Yes." "Would someone care to explain?" Rodriguez asked, joining them with the delegation in tow. Sarah activated her tablet, projecting a replay of the simulation. The swarm's new hunting tactics aren't just about survival. They're learning. Not just adapting, actually learning. Every engagement makes them more sophisticated. Which means, Vorkath rumbled, whatever pursues them must be truly formidable, to force such rapid evolution. The revelation sent a chill through the room. Even the assembly representatives, usually quick to debate every point, fell silent. "Then we don't have much time," Sarah concluded. "If the swarm is evolving this quickly, our window of opportunity is closing. We need to implement the joint operation now, before they develop countermeasures to our tactics." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "I'll fast-track the paperwork." "But Doctor, this is still incredibly risky. If your theory about what's chasing the swarm is correct, then we need to be ready for anything," she finished. "Which is exactly why this partnership needs to work. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt, to form alliances that others think impossible. The Night Stalkers are the galaxy's perfect predators. Together, we might be the only ones who can face whatever's coming." Vorkatha's plates rippled with determination. "Then let us hunt, Dr. Chen. Let us show the galaxy why humans earn their place among the stars, and why Night Stalkers choose their allies with care." As the training teams began discussing improvements to their tactics, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against more than just time. Somewhere out there, something had scared the galaxy's most numerous species into desperate evolution. And humanity had just placed itself squarely in its path. The bridge of the UES Hyperion thrummed with tension as Sarah watched the tactical display. Hundreds of human ships moved in perfect formation alongside the shadowy forms of Night Stalker vessels, their combined fleet stretching across 3 sectors of space. They'd been pursuing the main body of the swarm for 6 days, forcing them to maintain their energy-draining defensive formations. Status report, Captain Hayes called from her command chair. Swarm energy signatures dropping by 3% per hour, Lieutenant Santos reported from her station. They're burning through resources faster than they can replace them. Vorkatha's image appeared on the main view screen, his plates a deep azure of satisfaction. The trap approaches completion. They run exactly where we wish them to. Sarah nodded, but something was nagging at her. The swarm's movements were becoming more erratic, yes, but also more desperate. Like they knew what awaited them in the direction they were being herded. New contact. The sensor officer's voice cut through her thoughts. Massive energy signature at the edge of scanner range. It's bigger than anything we've ever encountered. The tactical display shifted, showing something that made even the Night Stalker's plates pale to ash white. A vessel, if it could be called that, was emerging from the darkness of deep space. It dwarfed everything around it, its surface covered in what looked like organic technology far more advanced than the swarm's crude biological ships. By the old gods, Vorkath breathed. Now we know what hunts them. The massive entity began broadcasting on all frequencies. The sound it made was like nothing human ears had ever heard, a complex symphony of frequencies that made the ship's hull vibrate in sympathy. Working on translation, Dr. Patel's voice was tight with concentration as she fed the signals through the ship's linguistics processors. It's not just one voice. It's millions, all speaking in perfect harmony. Sarah felt her breath catch as the translation began to form coherent words. We are the shepherds. We tend. We prune. We maintain balance. Shepherds, Sarah whispered. They're not predators at all. They're gardeners. Understanding crashed over her like a wave. The swarm hadn't evolved out of desperation, they'd been selectively bred. Guided. Pushed toward specific evolutionary paths by an intelligence so vast it viewed entire species as crops to be cultivated. All ships, hold position, Captain Hayes ordered. Dr. Chen, what are we dealing with? Sarah's mind raced. They're not trying to destroy the swarm. They're culling it. Directing its evolution. Like humans did with wolves, creating dogs, but on a galactic scale. The Shepherd vessel's next transmission seemed to confirm her theory. The swarm grows wild. It must be tended. You who hunt with skill, you who understand the shaping of predators, you may assist or stand aside. Vorkatha's image flickered as he processed this. They offer us partnership in this, gardening. They recognize what we've achieved, Sarah replied. Humans and Night Stalkers, working together. We've proved we understand how to guide the development of predator species. They're offering us a place in their ecosystem. Captain Hayes stood. The question is, do we want that place? Do we help them shape the evolution of an entire species? Sarah looked at the tactical display, where human and Night Stalker ships hung in space together, a testament to what could be achieved when different species chose to understand rather than fear each other. We counteroffer, she said firmly. The swarm doesn't need to be culled. It needs to be understood. Between human adaptability and Night Stalker hunting prowess, we can find a better way. Not as gardeners, but as teachers. Vorkatha's plates shifted to a color she'd never seen before, something between hope and determination. Yes. We show them there is more than one way to guide evolution. Through partnership, not pruning. The shepherds' response was immediate, their massive vessel pulsing with new patterns of light. Curious. Your species think differently. Perhaps. Perhaps there is wisdom in this. We will observe. As the tension on the bridge began to ease, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Humanity had done it again, turned a potential catastrophe into an opportunity for growth. And this time, they hadn't done it alone. Well, Captain Hayes said dryly, I suppose this means we'll need to expand our xenobiology department. In the following weeks, as human and Night Stalker scientists worked together to establish communication with the swarm under the Shepherd's watchful, Sarah often thought about how far they'd come. What had started as a desperate alliance had become something more, proof that in the vast garden of the galaxy, there was room for many different kinds of growth. And perhaps that was humanity's greatest gift to the stars, not the ability to tame predators, but the vision to see beyond simple predator and prey, to find the potential for partnership in the most unlikely places. 1 year after first contact with the Shepherds, the Galactic Assembly Chamber was packed for what many considered the most significant diplomatic event in centuries. Sarah stood at the podium, flanked by Vorkath and a new figure, a swarm representative, its crystalline form shimmering with neural patterns that indicated complex thought. When we first encountered the swarm, Sarah began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, we saw them as an unstoppable force of nature. When we met the Night Stalkers, most species saw them as monsters to be feared. And when the Shepherds revealed themselves, we could have accepted their ancient role as the galaxy's gardeners without question. She paused, looking across the assembled delegates. Instead, we chose to understand. All of us. And in doing so, we've created something unprecedented in galactic history. The holographic display behind her activated, showing the newly established Concordance Zone, a region of space where swarm colonies now coexisted peacefully with other species. Night Stalker vessels patrolled alongside human ships, while Shepherd observers watched the great experiment unfold. The swarm has evolved, Sarah continued, not through force or culling, but through communication and choice. They've developed self-awareness beyond mere survival instincts. The Night Stalkers have found purpose beyond the hunt, becoming teachers and guides to a species they once fought. And humanity. She smiled, humanity has once again proved that our greatest strength lies not in our technology or our adaptability, but in our ability to see potential where others see only threat. The swarm representative stepped forward, its crystalline voice resonating through the translation systems, we were many, but we were without true purpose. The humans showed us choice. The Night Stalkers showed us discipline. The Shepherds showed us patience. We are still many, but now we are also more. Vorkatha's plates shifted through colors of pride and satisfaction. Our species once prided itself on being the perfect predators. Now we understand that true perfection lies not in the hunt, but in knowing when to end it. In teaching others to rise above their base nature, we have ourselves evolved. From their observation platform, the Shepherd's representative pulsed with approval. Their once incomprehensible voice had grown more nuanced over the months of interaction. For eons, we tended the galaxy's garden alone, pruning and shaping as we thought best. The humans have shown us that sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow wild, guided by understanding rather than control. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber, where a new symbol was being unveiled, 3 interlocking circles representing the alliance between humans, Night Stalkers, and the swarm, with the Shepherd's mark encompassing them all. This is more than a peace treaty, she declared. This is proof that the path forward lies not in dominance or submission, but in recognition of each species' potential to grow beyond their origins. The galaxy is not a garden to be tamed, nor a hunting ground to be conquered. It is a community waiting to be built, one understanding at a time. As applause filled the chamber, Sarah caught sight of Commander Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, nodding approvingly from the Earth delegation. They'd come so far from those tense first meetings on Helio Station. The galaxy had changed, and with it, every species involved. The swarm still spread across space, but now they built rather than consumed. The Night Stalkers still hunted, but now they also protected and taught. The shepherds still watched over it all, but now they did so with newfound appreciation for the unexpected paths evolution could take. And humanity? Humanity had done what it always did, found friends in unlikely places, built bridges where others saw only chasms, and helped create a future that none of them could have imagined alone. As the ceremony concluded and delegates began to mingle, swarm crystals pulsing in conversation with Night Stalker color shifts while humans mediated and translated, Sarah felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had faced extinction and found evolution instead. They had confronted fear and fostered understanding. Most importantly, they had proved that in a galaxy full of predators and prey, gardeners and wild things, the most powerful force wasn't strength or numbers or even ancient wisdom. It was the simple, human ability to look at the most terrifying thing in existence and say, let's try to understand each other. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibilities, and for the first time in galactic history, they faced those possibilities together.